What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a 3D photo, GIF, boomerang, whatever you want to call it, all from your smartphone. So I made another video on this, but you have to use Photoshop. I do recommend using that way. It's a lot easier and a lot user-friendly, but I got a comment on that video asking, hey Chad, is there any way you can do this without using Adobe? I found a way. It's not without Adobe, but you don't have to have an Adobe subscription. So it's a free app on your phone called Adobe Rush that we'll be using. And yeah, let's get right to it. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is you want to take your pictures. You want to open up your camera app. And I made a little setup right here where I'm going to take some pictures. One of the most important things you can know is to have your live photos off up here. So just click that and make sure that's off. And then you're simply just gonna move horizontally and take 4 photos. So I like to move pretty slowly and just keep the camera as straight as you can. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I like to do a couple passes just to make sure it's perfect. When you're doing this on your phone, you really want to try to keep your subject as close to being as in the middle as possible. So let's do this one more time. Move horizontally. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's look at them. Okay, these are gonna work perfect. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna head over to Adobe Premiere Rush. Now, Adobe Premiere Rush is a free Adobe app. You don't have to have an Adobe subscription to use it. If you're new to it, you're gonna have to sign in and make an account. It's super easy. You can sign in with Facebook. You can sign in with Gmail. It's super user-friendly, super easy. So once you're in, all you gotta do is hit this plus button down here, hit add media, and that's gonna create a new project. And then we're gonna go to our camera roll where we just took our pictures, and we're gonna use these top 4 because those are my most recent pictures and the ones I liked the most. And now that they're in here, you can see it looks weird. It's taking up the full screen. We don't want that. We're gonna change the aspect ratio, and we're gonna do that just by clicking these little squares down here and then hitting 9:16. And that should fix it, and that looks great. So here's where it gets a little tricky. What we're gonna do is we're gonna hit this little symbol down here with the line with the 3 lines coming out of it, and what that does is it opens up our timeline to make it a little more complex so we can do a little more with it. So what I like to do now is I go through each one of my pictures and I find the picture where the subject is the most in the middle, and I base all my other pictures off that, and you'll see what I mean by that in just a second. In this case, I like the 3rd picture the best, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna zoom in. I'm gonna take this 2nd image and I'm gonna lift it up onto the layer above, and now it's above that 3rd image. From here, what I'm gonna wanna do is I'm gonna wanna line the wine bottles up. So to do that, I'm gonna scroll over here in my effects panel and hit transform. And once I'm in transform, I'm gonna go over to opacity and I'm gonna drop it down to where I can see both the wine bottles. Once you have the opacity drop down and you can kind of see both wine bottles, you want to do as best as you can to line them up. So you go over to your H and V positions and you just mess with them until those wine bottles look like they're in the exact same spot. So that looks pretty good to me. And then I come back over here and I bump the opacity back up. So now I zoom back out on my timeline, and I remember this was my second image, so I bring it back down into my timeline and put it in the second position. So now I'm going to do the same thing but for the last picture. So I just zoom in, I grab this image and I put it on top of our third image, and then come down, make sure the top layer is selected, drop the opacity down, and then I move the images until the bottles are perfectly aligned. You want to take your time and make it as perfect as possible, because that's what's going to make it really worth it in the end. So that looks pretty good. Now I come back over here and bump the opacity back up, and then zoom back out, and I put this clip back at the end. And now I repeat that step one last time, but for the first image. So again, I'm using the third image as my base layer to base everything off of, and now I drop the opacity. Now I drop the opacity down to where I can see both bottles. I move it to where the bottles line up perfectly, and that looks pretty good. Then back over to opacity, bump it up, and once we got that all done, we just take it and we move it back to the beginning of the clip. And now we're ready to start messing with the duration of our clips. So we're gonna zoom in, and I like to make these clips about 2 frames long. When you make these clips shorter, your phone kind of gives you a little vibration on each frame. So this looks like 2 frames, and as you can see, we're already getting that effect, but I want it to look a little better, so I'm going to make it a little quicker. So I'm going to take these down, take this down, and you want to make sure each picture is the same length. So there we go, and bam, yeah. It's starting to look really good. So to get that boomerang effect, what you want to do is you want to duplicate each layer and reverse it back down. So for example, we're going to take this and we're going to duplicate it, and then we're going to take this, we're going to take it and move it to the back. And it can be a little tricky to move these clips when they're small, so sometimes you have to make them bigger and then move them. Now we're going to take this second one and duplicate it, and also move it to, we're going to move it to the back, but keep it in front of the last picture, because that's our original first picture. And then last but not least, we're going to take this third one and we're going to duplicate it, and we're going to move it to third from last, and then make sure it's the same length. And now let's watch it. And bam, there you go. You're getting that 3D photo. And then to export it, you just hit this button up here in the top right corner, and then hit export, and it exports out to your camera roll. If you don't have an Adobe account, I know you can only export at 1080p and not 4K, but that's okay because Instagram only posts at 1080p. Instagram doesn't even do 4K. I hope you enjoyed this. Get creative with it. I know a lot of people were limited to making these 3D photos because you had to have access to Photoshop or a Nishika N8000 film camera. But this way you can do it 100% free, and you can do it all from your phone. So I hope this helps somebody out there. Feel free to send me any of your work over at my Instagram at @thechadcastle. If you got any value out of this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like this content, please subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.